There have been hundreds of excavations in which the bones of giants have been allegedly unearthed and then secreted away.
Some of the gods had sex with humans, and the offsprings were giants.
Referred to as the giants or the mighty ones, and some believe they were between 8 and 15 feet tall.
The Bible makes reference to a number of different individuals and groups of people who were considered to be giants. Interpreters have speculated on the stature of these people, with estimates ranging from 6 feet to more than 30 feet tall. In addition, there is a lot of misinformation regarding giants in the Bible on the internet, as well as some fake pictures of claimed giants. So did these colossal beings actually exist? If yes, what size were they? In this video, we explore some of the ancient tombs of giants discovered by archaeologists all over the world. 4,000 years ago, there was a city called Uruk in the region of the world we now consider to be the cradle of civilization, in the land of Babylon, between the rivers Tigris and Euphrates. Uruk was a magnificent city, and its king, Gilgamesh, was its most powerful and handsome resident. He was unparalleled in every aspect. He was a towering presence, both figuratively and literally. He was a giant. According to today's standards of measuring, Gilgamesh had a height of 5.5 meters. His gigantic physical height reflects other exceptional qualities of his personality. Archaeologists working in Iraq in 2003 were reportedly of the idea that they may have found the lost tomb of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh was the ruler of the ancient Sumerian city of Uruk and was the subject in the earliest documented story in the annals of human history. The Epic of Gilgamesh was written down on Sumerian clay tablets in the 3rd millennium BC. The story commemorates the life of Uruk's king at the time, which was around the middle of the 27th century BC. Uruk was both a powerful and long-lasting ancient city in the area. It is possible that the modern nation of Iraq got its name from this very city. However, the validity of that claim is contested. In 2003, a German-led expedition reported discovering what was assumed to be the whole city of Uruk, including the famed king's final burial place, which would have been encircled by the waters of the Euphrates before the river changed course. I don't want to state for certain that it was Gilgamesh's grave, but it seems quite similar to that described in the epic, said Jörg Fassbinder of Munich's Bavarian Department of Historical Monuments. Gilgamesh is said to have been buried under the Euphrates in a tomb built when the waters of the ancient river parted after his death. According to the narrative, which is documented on a set of inscribed clay tablets, we found just outside the city an area in the middle of the former Euphrates River, the remains of such a building which could be interpreted as a burial, Fassbinder added. He explained that the remarkable discovery of the ancient city buried beneath the sands of the Iraqi desert had been made possible by technological advancements. By reading differences in the magnetization in the soil, you can look into the ground, Fassbinder added. The difference between mud, bricks and sediments in the Euphrates provides a very detailed structure. This creates a magnetogram, which is subsequently digitally plotted, thereby providing an Uruk town plan. The most unexpected finding was that experts discovered structures mentioned in the Gilgamesh epic. The area covered more than 100 hectares, and they discovered garden buildings, field structures, and Babylonian houses as depicted in the epic. However, Fassbinder said that the most amazing discovery was an amazingly intricate system of canals. Very clearly, we can see in the canals some structures showing that flooding destroyed some of the houses, which means that a highly developed system existed here. It was like a Venice in the desert. You've probably heard of Goliath. An unprecedented discovery on Israel's southern shore may allow archaeologists to finally uncover the roots of one of the Hebrew Bible's most notorious and enigmatic peoples, the Philistines. The finding of a vast cemetery outside the walls of ancient Ascalon, a significant Philistine city between the 12th and 7th century BC, is the first of its sort in the region's archaeological history. While more than a century of research has identified the 5 major Philistine cities and relics unique to their culture, only a few burials have been tentatively identified. Simply put, archaeologists have discovered many pots but few people. The discovery of a graveyard containing more than 211 bodies and dating from the 11th to 8th centuries BC will now allow archaeologists to answer crucial issues about the Philistines' origins and how they eventually integrated into local culture. Until now, the lack of such cemeteries in major Philistine centres had rendered researchers' understanding of their burial practices, and by extension their origins, about as accurate as the mythology about George Washington chopping down the cherry tree, says Lawrence Steger, an emeritus professor of archaeology at Harvard University, who has led the Leon Levi expedition to Ascalon since 1985. The Philistines are one of the most well-known antagonists in the Hebrew Bible. This faction ruled the coastal region of modern-day southern Israel and the Gaza Strip, waging war on their Israeli neighbours and briefly seizing the Ark of the Covenant. The cunning Delilah, who deprived Samson of his power by cutting his hair, and the enormous Goliath, who made King Saul's men tremble in their tents until a young man named David took him down with a slingshot, were among their ranks. The most famous giant, of course, was the great Philistine slain by David. In the Bible, he is described as follows: "And a champion went out from the camp of the Philistines named Goliath from Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. He had a bronze helmet on his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of bronze. And he had bronze armor on his legs, and a bronze javelin between his shoulders. Now the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his iron spearhead weighed 600 shekels, and a shield bearer went before him." The Philistines first emerge in the archaeological record in the early 12th century BC. Their entrance is signalled by artefacts that belong to what an expert calls an extraordinarily different culture from other nearby groups at the period. Many researchers also associate the Philistines with the exploits of the Sea Peoples, a strange confederation of tribes that appear to have inflicted havoc over the eastern Mediterranean around the close of the Late Bronze Age in the 13th and 12th centuries BC. A relief in the mortuary temple of Pharaoh Ramses III depicts his war against the Sea Peoples in 1180 BC and records the names of numerous of the tribes, among them the Peliset, who are portrayed with unusual headdress and kilts. The Peliset may have moved in or near Ascalon around this period, which had already been a significant Canaanite port on the Mediterranean Sea for generations. They also set up control in 4 other major cities: Ashdod, Ekron, Gath, and Gaza, and the territory became known in the Hebrew Bible as the country of the Palistu, the origin of the current term Palestine. Next, we have the Sardinian Giants. Few ancient or modern places are as appealing as Italy, with its peoples, rolling landscapes, Mediterranean shoreline, and rich historical fascination. We can add to this list a new archaeological phenomenon that has been discovered in Sardinia. On this island off the coast of Italy, skeletal remains of giants have been discovered, confounding academic theories about the land's early occupants. Sardinia is located 5 hours west of mainland Italy and is home to a long-held belief that giants once roamed the area. According to travel guides, much of the island's prehistoric past has been preserved owing to Sardinia's largely unpopulated landscape, and many sites where people once lived have long been abandoned. Human occupancy can be traced back to the Upper Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, Bronze and Iron periods. Despite the fact that early Sardinians left behind enormous contributions of ancient pottery and megalithic monuments made out of large, heavy and durable stone, the finds that are believed to be of Sardinian giants and include bone and tooth fragments are arguably the most stunning. The site in question is in Codu Vecchio, at a location known to locals and archaeologists alike as Tomba dei Giganti, the Tomb of the Giants. The Nuragic culture built it as a public tomb during the Bronze Age, 3300 to 700 BC, in an area where many people were buried. The Codu Vecchio giants' tombs are entered through the entryway of a central stele, which was thought to function as a barrier between the physical world and the afterlife. 11 granite stones are set in a semicircle about 40 feet across in the compound's stone courtyard. According to legend, Sardinia was once home to a race of giants. Supporters of this notion refer to the enormous size of some of the stones used on the burial grounds. Archaeologists, on the other hand, argue that only the tombs are massive and that those buried at the site were normal-sized humans. Perhaps just as intriguing are the remnants of rituals, the presence of powerful sources of natural energy, and the connection of the megaliths to the heavens at the location. Many huge tombs are oriented towards the Taurus constellation and point to Aldebaran, the brightest star. On equinox days, the light of the rising sun penetrates the burial passage straight through a small gap in the stele. In the majority of locations where the giants' graves were built, modern settlements are extremely uncommon in close proximity to the graves. This has prompted archaeologists to hypothesize that the giants' graves served not only as a place for burial, but also as a center for religious and ceremonial meetings. According to some beliefs, the warring tribes built the giants' graves to delimit territorial boundaries or for cosmological purposes. By around 1150 BC, construction and burial in giants' graves was substituted by pit graves, many of which were abandoned or partially dismantled. The tombs of the giants' sites in Sardinia will remain a mystery that defies the conventional narrative as long as some archaeologists refuse to consider the possibility of giants as a part of human history on Earth. Let us know what you think of these ancient giants' tombs in the comments section.